Well, today is the day. We've kind of known that this was going to happen for a while now. We had a little bit of warning, like, 2 weeks, a month ago, maybe, that Roe v. Wade was at high risk of being overturned, and today was the day. It is official. Roe v. Wade has been overturned, which leaves the decision on whether or not abortion will be legal up to the states. Now, a lot of very unintelligent people on the internet are going to tell you that this is a good thing. They're going to tell you that this is a democratic decision that brings this issue back to the decision of the people. In reality, what it really is an obfuscation of the truth. It is no different than the exact same arguments that conservatives made all the way back during the times of slavery to defend that institution. They argued that it was a democratic issue that should be left up to the rights of each individual state to make the decision on whether or not slavery would be upheld. This was the thought process that was used to uphold the enslavement of entire groups of people for centuries. Long time, that thought process has been used. The idea that these decisions on whether or not a group of people should have their rights or not, that it is a decision to be made democratically. Specifically in the case of states' rights, that goes back to slavery here in America. And it is no different. They're trying to obfuscate the truth of this. The Republicans want to take away a lot of your rights. They want to take away the rights for gay people to marry. That is next in the chopping block. They want to take the rights of access to contraceptives away from women and men, both. That's on the chopping block as well. Access to trans-affirming medical care, off the chopping block. They're also waging a cultural war against access to any entertainment or educational material that even mentions the existence of gay or LGBT people, or mentions the existence of all the horrible things that these same conservatives, or at least I should say their ideology, people who adhere to their same ideology, did all the way back in the day. They will be implementing anti-sodomy laws. They'll be, absolutely, sodomy laws will be put in place, 100%. They are going to engage in full-on 1984, unironically 1984, levels of civil rights abuses on American people. And it's going to be horrible. However, I think it's important to point out that this has been a massive wake-up call. I'm not an accelerationist. I was never a Bernie or Buster. I'm still not a Bernie or Buster. I'm a vote blue no matter who kind of guy. You know how I am. Very pragmatic, and I full-heartedly believe in the idea that we need to take every single measure possible to that realistically can actually cause changes to occur within the systems we exist in. I'm a very strong supporter of all of these things. However, I'm also a believer in the fact that since Biden got elected, liberals have been largely pretty politically disaffected. Not a lot of discussion culturally or politically at all. And I know this doesn't, back to brunch, basically. Now, I know this doesn't really play all that large a role in something like, for example, the Supreme Court, right? Trump was already elected. Trump appointed these Supreme Court picks. So liberals being complacent now literally makes no difference. No difference whatsoever, right? However, what it does make a difference about is the midterms. The midterms were coming, and I'm sorry, but the Republicans were about to sweep the midterms. And if I'm being honest now, this might change that. This genuinely might. The Republicans, the Republicans, things were looking very good for them coming into the midterms. But this isn't all that dissimilar to the jolt that COVID gave America. Trump didn't win his re-election because people realized how bad having a Trump presidency was. People are being reminded right now how bad having a Republican Supreme Court is, how important it is to not only get a Democrat elected, to not only get a progressive in office, but to hold that office consistently. And not only that, but if you don't hold the culture as well, then you'll just backslide straight to where you were 10, 15 years ago all over again. At this point, we're backsliding to where we were 50 years ago. I'm not sure this will be enough. I don't know, guys. I think it might be. In a lot of places, it very well might be. Do you think Democrats are letting this slide just to get through the midterms / have their fundraising go burr? Uncle Gumball, that would be a very smart move, but I think it would be too obvious. We're going to have to watch the Democrats and see what they do. I don't know how much they can do. No, we'll be doing a pro-choice charity for sure when the 75K Sonic charity stream happens. This is a nightmare scenario. It is. It sucks. Don't get me wrong. I know many of you guys are doomering right now. I know a lot of you are very scared, but this is a challenge. And that's how I want all of you to see it. A challenge. The right is pushing their boundaries. They're trying to see how much ground they can take. A lot of people, I think, don't really realize the extent that the right is willing to go to implement their will. And I think that for a long time, the right very successfully convinced a lot of younger people that the old George Bush and like pre that era of like super prude, super discriminatory, overtly racist and homophobic politics had kind of slipped to the wayside, and that nowadays the Republicans were focused on the important stuff, the culture war issues. Like, it's the SJWs and the liberals and the crazy trans activists that are the threat, and they're fighting them, and that's why you need to support the Republicans. I feel like that's what it's been for a lot of people for a long time. They genuinely felt like that old prude, ultra-authoritarian, crack down on your rights and, implement that 1950s super racist, chauvinistic society. I think a lot of people thought that the Republicans had moved past that conservatism had moved past that. There was this alt-right phase, like, craze at the time. Like, back when the alt-right was, like, first becoming a thing, people proudly identified as alt-right because it was seen as this new alternative young person's conservatism. Like Milo Yiannopoulos, this suave, gay British guy in suits that had very good public speaking skills was one of their public faces, right? So to a lot of people, the right had rebranded itself. But in reality, it never changed. It never did. Any of you who think the right is just fixated on dealing with the SJWs or the woke scolds or the crazy gay agenda in Star Wars or whatever you're obsessed with, that is not what it is about. These are issues meant to distract you from what they really care about. When you get them into office on culture war issues like CRT and gay kisses in Star Wars movies or whatever, when they get into office, they start passing bills or they start implementing policy that takes away the civil rights of entire demographics of people in our society. This has always been their goal. They've done this every time they've gotten into power, on repeat, over and over and over again. And every single new generation of dumb teenagers that falls for these... Listen, I don't care how many young, hip, hot, cool-looking Daily Wire or Blaze TV or conservative YouTubers that get paid by fucking oil money that the conservatives can hire to show for their talking points and convince you that the real threat are the blue-haired, pierced, trans college feminists that are coming after your video games or whatever. They've convinced you that's the real threat, when in reality, they are unilaterally making pushes to take away your civil rights. It doesn't matter. If you think that, like, trans women in the Olympics is a problem, well, guess what? If you care about women's rights and or like women having a fair go of things, you ought to care about this. Because they use that whole, like, women aren't able to, we care about women's rights in sports, women's rights in the Olympics. Trans men are pretending to be women and dominating women in sports. Don't you care about women's rights? Don't you care about women's rights? You got people like Ariel Scarcella. You got people like J.K. Rowling, who will nonstop front about how the trans community and the left are anti-women, and yet here they are, supporting politicians and enabling people like this to get into power, who actively pass laws that take away rights from women. Instead of, like, I don't know, maybe a trans woman goes into a woman's bathroom and makes a cis woman feel uncomfortable. To be clear with all of you, this is all of their endgame. If you think that your favorite conservative YouTuber is different, then you're wrong. Your favorite conservative YouTuber supports this. This is his endgame. You can tell as well. How many conservative figures out there who claim to be more centrist or center-leaning or reasonable or pro-freedom, how many of them out there right now on Twitter right now are posting memes about it? Or like clearly laughing and just don't have a care in the world about it? It's very clear they're happy about this and support it. It seems like there's nothing positive to be gleaned from this, right? And there isn't really much. I try to find a silver lining with my videos, and it's hard to do it with this one, but the best that I can really say is it's not the end of the world. It sucks, and it's another horrible, terrible thing that Republicans are doing to harm people in this country. It's been added onto the list. But it doesn't mean we've lost. It doesn't mean our work is done. It doesn't mean it's over. What's changed, Jesse?
What's changed, Jesse? It's not over until I say it's over.
It's not done. We don't stop fighting the right because this happened. Doomering does nothing for you. It really does. Dwelling on the fact that that Roe v. Wade has been overturned does nothing for you. All it does is it's going to make you miserable. It's going to make you sad. It's going to make you want to feel like withdrawn from politics. The last thing you need to be doing. Right now, what you need to be doing is fighting like crazy. Now, I know it sounds LARPy, but the culture war is real. Some of the politicians that are in red states that are going to be imposing anti-abortion laws are going to have been elected because of these culture war issues. I know it's going to piss off the woke scolds out there especially, because they're going to interpret this as me saying what I talk about as being more important than they deem it being. But yeah, the culture war shit is actually politically relevant now. We've got actual elected representatives talking about cancel culture and CRT and the trans activists or whatever, like up on podiums in front of news stations. The shit that was once culture war issues that YouTubers discussed on Twitter and on YouTube and Twitch is now something being discussed on the floors of Congress. Cancel culture is being talked about as a serious thing on the floors of Congress. What does this mean? It means that the internet, more so than ever, and the culture politically of the internet is affecting real life politics. It used to be that the general political leaning of America was more or less expressed through what was the most popular talk show on TV at the time. So you know what? This is actually the perfect thing to get drunk for. Wouldn't this be the perfect stream to get drunk for? Hold on. I forgot my mom's an alcoholic. She drank all the liquor. Weed will have to do. In light of this absolute nightmare scenario, allow me to